Welcome everyone to the 23rd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. It's Tuesday, January 16th, 2018. And once again, we are gathered to discuss things that are part of the Universal Council, the Earth Council, and generally to do with peace on planet Earth. And I think we're going to begin today's work with, first of all, I think we can hear from Caroline, although she's on the road right now, and it'll be a few minutes before we get a stable connection there. But Caroline, are you there right now? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm stable.
Hi. Oh, very good. Is there anything you'd like to say at this point?
Oh, yes. We say Happy New Year to everybody. A bright year full of knowledge, a lot of sharing, a lot of love and care. And we have a program ready, Rick. And with which one would you like to start?
Well, part of it depends on Mosfek. He's preparing his Bengali reading of the Earth Council and should be ready shortly, if not ready now. He's supposed to let me know here. I don't see a message yet. Let me see though.
I'm not ready yet, but I'll be ready shortly.
Okay, thank you, Mosfek.
So we can go through the topic of Mr. Keshe's teaching about the oasis.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
So do you want to set that up a bit in terms of what you had in mind with this particular aspect of the teaching?
It is to bring the explanation more in detail and more to stimulate people to apply the Ganses. Now they can remember why I was urging everyone to go and pour Ganses in the rivers and in the fountains and in the seas or the lakes, sprayed in their gardens. And the reason why has been explained in Mr. Keshe's last teaching. And this is the one that Rick was so kind to go and find and, as we say, chop it to the right size that we need to go through it again for more people or new people to come in, what they can achieve with this procedure, with what you can learn and how you can apply it. But more the importance is to understand why and where we can change and where we can bring the difference. That it was not just me asking just to go and give Ganses and pour them out, but the essence of the why and the how is very well explained by Mr. Keshe. And we have a lot of information received from Tom, which brought the confirmation. But it would be nice to start the year because in some parts of the world it is summer, some parts it's spring, some parts it's winter time. So wherever the spring starts coming in, people are more eager to go and pour the Ganses out. And if people know and follow the forecasts of earthquakes or natural disasters that are about to come, maybe we can go to these sensible places and start applying. So it is to reach the people which are near those conditions that they can give their blessing by applying the Gans waters with the understanding what difference they can bring. Are you ready, Rick?
Okay. So this is an excerpt out of the 206 Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and I'll just play it through. It's about 20 minutes, so you'll see this window playing for that time period. It'll look like it's this workshop and sound like this workshop, but it'll be the excerpt from the 206 Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Okay, just let me set up the sound on that. Okay, I think I'm ready to begin. Let's down a bit. Okay.
You have to work in harmony with the environment. If you force it, then you have to fight it. If you create a condition which uses the true gravitational magnetic field of any destination, be it the desert, be it the sea, be it on planet Zeus, you can live. You can create a condition that is what you need for the time you need it. The creation of the deserts on this planet is done because of the what we call the angle of the planet. The planet starts from the north and rotates down, and it goes through that phase of desert and then coming down to the equator, and then the planets on the equators, they ball in and it turns over. If you go back to the history of, let's say, United Kingdom, it used to be some time ago part of a desert, and it used to be at the bottom of the sea in another time, through the angle of the rotation of the planet, which everything rotates. It takes billions of years, but they come up. The evidence of his is geologists. They can tell you very much exactly where you've been and what has been. It takes billions of years, but what is created in the North Pole gradually becomes part of the equator on the landmass. And this is, we cannot stop this process. But in so many ways, as it goes through it, you have to understand, then it shows why we cannot create, or we don't see as such vegetation in the desert area. Leave it to me, I make the deserts to be the oasis, green as what we call jungles of Amazon, because I understand why. But then this brings another problem for us. Where does then, if we do such a thing, we'll create a dynamic flow on the surface of the planet for the evolution and rotation of the magnetic field of the matters we call air. We need the hot and cold and the temperature difference to create this dynamic atmosphere that it guarantees life. And this planet has got used to it and it's adjusted itself in evolution. As it's happening slowly, it matches up itself. As I said before, without the dust from the deserts of Central Africa, there'd be no life, more or less, very limited life in the Atlantic Ocean. Because the dust from the desert, this red dust, becomes the beginning of the life when it lands in the ocean. Millions of tons of it. If we stop this, then what happens to the food which is needed as fish that so much man relies on? We become an integrated system. We cannot change it. One is depending on the other. But in places we can create small deviations, but not by what happened with the Israelis with Sinai Desert. Tarmac it, put a new soil on it, and put the orange trees, and when you cannot control it, the whole thing goes collapsing. Read about the Jaffa orange, how the Israelis created it in the Sinai Desert after the 6-day war when they took the Sinai Desert. They grew oranges on a desert land because they tarmacked it and they put new soil and then they put plants. But when you cannot sustain it, then it goes back. But you can create conditions to sustain life, like in the borders of the Beijing, in what they call the deserts, which is moving onto Beijing. Then if you understand this, you can do the same anywhere in the universe. But you have to understand which way the fields are moving. We look into the deep space and we see what we call the darkness. But in time when man becomes educated and creates new tools, we see the same thing. The magnetic fields flow in one direction and later on they flow in another direction. The same process as we have a day and night photosynthesis, as you call it, field flow, the same thing happens in the universe, but in a larger scale. In the dimensions, what we see, the pictures coming from NASA, the telescopes they have, and they see the magnetic fields, we see dimensions, environments where the systems and the galaxies are totally rotating different direction in opposition to what is the rest of the area is doing. Why? One is the direction of flow, one is the interaction of the other universes at that point. There's a lot to learn, but we have to understand this basic of the interaction of the fields. This, if you look, the reactor we showed in between, that the amperage changes according to the time. It gives you a lot of knowledge in how you can create lift and motion from any space. For those who are in a space research lab, understand this. I asked you a couple of weeks ago, run such a test to understand. Because if you can create a gravitational magnetic field using the Earth gravitational magnetic field that it matches, you don't need to bend anything. The field of the Earth, like a wind, blows you into the air. But because you have a field strength within the reactors you have created, then you dictate the strength of that wing. You want to float or you want to blow and go as fast as you like. In the new science of space technology, you don't need to burn the fuel, because by adjusting the field strength you left, and you dictate how to and where to and how to blow in the winds of the environment. We've seen this clearly in what happened where Tom Sellers went. Maybe now for the first time you understand how come the rest of the area is flattened by hurricane, but not the house of the mother of Tom. Because the gravitational magnetic field created by the gases which has fed the plants and more or less the whole environment with, is not just the plant, they have created a condition that they do not follow. They do not interact with the field of the environment. The wind has no strength to blow through it because they're above it. It's what we call gravitational magnetic field shielding. The shielding comes when you have a strength higher than the environment. It's a bulletproof, even though some wind might go through. Now, the whole science with the experience of what we've done makes sense. There is no mystery, as Tom was showing us in the Tuesday teachings of the, what we call the Earth Council and Universal Council, that he's done this, and that's why the mother's house is like an oasis. If you have the pictures, please can you put it up, Rick, if you can find it, from Tom Sellers. Now, understanding this, even the photosynthesis becomes meaningless. It's field strength interaction, and we understand this more. This is total part of the structure of what I said. We bring the physical teaching of the matter state into the field, and then is in the soul. Because a plant has a soul, because it interacts, it's a dynamic, so it has a center line. Why can we cut a tree, part of it, cut its wings, cut its leaves, cut its branches, and it still lives, and it gives more? It's a giver because now it has directionalized its field. This is the beauty with the vertical people, because they have directionalized the stem of the tree, the trunk of the tree is the where I release my energy from whatever I accept collectively through my soul. This is why the trees have different shape and different structure. They decide from their soul, from inside, what environment I cover. I can go because of the field strength I receive all the way up, become a very tall tree. Or I have a composition which allows me not more than 10 centimeter field effect, I become a herb, a shrub. I create a condition according to the central point that at certain points I need energy points for myself that I can at certain points balance with the environment. I call them the fruits. The picture we see today, if you join the Tuesday teaching, you see it. This is the house of Tom, Salah's mother, in the hurricanes which went through, flattened the whole of Caribbean this year. And nothing has happened to the garden. We have a video. Do you have access to the video of this, please?
Just a minute, I can bring that up.
This is the picture after the hurricane has gone over the island, and then 200 meters, if you have the picture of the other side of the 200 meters, beyond the boundary of the, what I call the heaven on the island, you see flattened trees, totally, within 100 meters, within a few yards from each other. Where the ganses, in a way, changing the environment has come in, has created this condition. It's not that everything just happened here. You see a circle where Tom, while he was in the island, in the last problem situation when they had a hurricane, he watered, planted the trees with CO2 and the ganses, and then he has created this. This is what was shown on the plasma video by Tom. And then you have pictures. If you have a picture of the hurricane area, beyond this circle you see, this is the oasis in the center of a disaster. And within few yards, you see everything is flattened. Because now what I explained in the teaching today, it brings everything home. Now we understand why. Because we create a condition, that, you see, this is just, you see the hurricane line. That's it. At this line, everything has gone. And just come back in, you see life where the waters of the gas has been used. This is a huge live research for scientists, world scientists, and this is it. This is outside the boundary of just water. There is no walls, there is no domes, there is nothing. Now, does the photosynthesis exist the way we explained, or we have to learn a new science, addition to the science, plus what we know up to now? Because, as I said, if we say everything has been wrong up to now, we become hypocrites of the past. We can add this knowledge to what we know now to complete it. That's the difference in the desert of what's been created by the hurricane. Every leaf, every plant has created a condition. Even the physical structure of the building is protected as part of it. And this is few days after the hurricane, the whole island has been cleaned out. Keshe Foundation technology, plasma technology, is the only solution for mankind to overcome half of its problems. The other half is understanding of the totality and what we call the problems we have created for ourselves. We have to understand the true knowledge. We have to understand that gravitational field strength is not just, as we said with the hypocrisy, that it passes the life, but it passes the whole environment of a life. Can I ask you please, Rick, add this video at the end of the teaching of today. Tom's video, when we finish, just let it be there, because many world governments watch these teachings and then they can see the real effect of the problem they have and how simply can be solved. This is a big teaching for governments in Africa and in Asia, and what we call the conditions which needs to be understood. Now, what I explained in regard to photosynthesis makes sense. That in creating new environmental condition, with the presence of the gases, we influence the environment. We decide where we don't interfere the gravitational field of the earth to interact with the plant's inner, what we call the Ganser state of the leaf of a branch or whatever, in respect to the sun's gravitational magnetic field pressures. Wouldn't we like to see this across all the islands of Caribbean? Let the hurricane come. If the government, like American government, decides to spray the islands with the CO2 gas, they'll have more effect than what they did with the orange agents in Vietnam. The beauty of the light of the gas is much better than the color, orange color of the poison they have left. It still killing so many. This is why we need one nation. This is why we need to become one nation. Then let the hurricane blow across Caribbean. Nobody cares. The building is still there. Because the field created by the plants through the CO2 has even protected, changed the environment that the wind does not affect the building. As we see, most of the houses in the island are flattened. We still see the beautiful one sitting outside the beautiful house. This is what we have to understand. This is what has to be understood by world governments. There is a need for peace. There is a need for becoming one nation. Not killing scientists on a dining table, like poison me, poison the guy who made the stems, and all by one misguided bunch of people who do not even deserve to be part of humanity. The scientists who bring the changes has to be understood and supported, and not to be killed for them, for their knowledge to be put away. And it's all done under one name, by one nation, and this will be stopped in the coming time. When we said the scientists are getting killed by Belgians, everybody laughed. He just thinks the guy took a poison, he had a brain hemorrhage. We've seen one after another. Now they become so bold that they kill the guy on the table. This will stop very soon, because the scientists are the messengers of the knowledge of physicality, as are the prophets of what became misguided soul of the man. And every single one of us is scientists, because it discovers something new, be it in our cooking, be it in our living, being on the machinery we work, every little bit we add to. So if one which gets known is got to be safeguarded, so is the rest of the man. We have to bring one nation, one planet, one race. That as a race of the man, now we understand more, we can bring the changes we're looking for. Show this video to your government. All the Caribbeans, take this video, Keshe Foundations, and say, this is in the island where it's happened. Let them go and see it. When we open a research center, we bring in governments to show bring all the people of the governments, this is what it is, this is what's happened on the island, and it is not one tree, it's a garden of heaven. So why don't we do this across Caribbeans? Why don't we create the finances that we can spray the whole of island? We don't change much. We don't need to bring reactors and get, oh, I've discovered a way to change, move hurricanes. You don't change. You create the environments, then what happened next year? What happened the year after? This process will stay with the island for years to come. We do pest control. This will create the condition of hurricane control, but leaving the rest of the what is needed through the hurricanes, through the change of the conditions of life, but isolate places where it touches humanity.
Okay, that's the end of that clip. And unless you wanted to play something back on that, Caroline, then I'll just run the our usual background video here.
I thank you very much for going and sorting this video out. I brought it here because he mentions it quite a few times. The title of this presentation, this all of us together working for one nation, world peace, and the more souls we can provide with peaceful conditions, the faster the planet can turn into a peaceful place for everyone, for all. It's not only that we are talking always us humans that need peace, but the majority in this picture was shown to be the animals and to be the plants. And some of our materialistic state, which is the building and the property of the mom of Salas, because the mama didn't know, she was not present when the storm passed, she went somewhere else. And this is how she found her place when she came back. So if this knowledge would have been known before, she could have called a lot of people onto her property and they would have been safe. Exactly like she found it when she came back home. My point is, the more we create the avenue for people to know about this information, to apply it, to teach it, how they can make it, that it can go much faster in bigger areas, the more peaceful we will give to every single being which is on this planet. Nature, fishes, trees, birds, animals, humans, and even your properties which you live in, which gives you the comfort. And I think that is the whole point of this knowledge. It is understood by so many knowledge seekers. It has been bombarded by a lot of different views, comments. A lot of people are opposing it, but they always are asking for proof. Proof of the existence, that it is what it is, that we say what it is. Now you have the scientific proof, you have the teachings, and you have the confirmation, because you can go and visit the place of Tom. You can go and see it with your own eyes. If you don't even trust the videos and the pictures that Tom has given to the world, sharing what he has discovered, you can visit and watch with your own eyes and ask the mama yourself, how did she do it? How did Tom do it? Tom is available. You can find him on the Facebook. You can find him on the social networks. You can find him in the teachings. So I think this is what we say, proof of concept, proof of whatever you want to name it. And this was, for a lot of people, a mystery. And this is where you were struggling with to show people what you're doing, it's correct, that it works. Maybe through this guidance, with the gift that Tom brought, what he applied there with his mom, can show and open a path for a lot of knowledge seekers, for a lot of people which have nothing to do with the Keshe Foundation, but to involve them, how they can even safeguard themselves. Not only to go and reach out for others, which is the whole purpose of this teaching, is to reach, to give, to create peace, not only for humanity, but through us, we will create more peace for the whole environment. That's the message of this year. And that's why I said a Happy New Year, because we couldn't have shared a bigger gift with the proof that it works. And you all know how to do it. And for the new people which have come in, please refer, ask questions. We will help you. We will assist you to guide you how to do it, where to go, how to become a knowledge seeker yourself. Because this is one beautiful gift which the foundation has created. And that is, we share freely, we give freely, we inform freely, and we donate whatever is in our possibility towards the target to reach world peace. Thank you very much, Rick. And that was the message for this year. And that's why it was so important to bring Mr. Keshe's teaching forward, because he explained in a different way how much more you can achieve. Are there any questions from the public, please?
Okay, thank you, Caroline. And people that are in the attendees can raise their hand virtually, and we can allow you to speak. Clint tells me that Powell had his hand up. Let's see. I'm not seeing him in the list right now, actually.
I think he dropped out.
Oh, okay.
It's Poliatut.
No, that was Pavel Braska.
Ah, okay. That should give you a real boost under your energy, because now you can show proof. And this was something that a lot of people were asking. It didn't matter that the testimonies were published. It didn't matter that so many publications are available. But this is something which is there, and you can go and see it, and it's open to public. And please, if you do pay a visit, take some gifts to the island, because a big part, majority of the island is still suffering, and there's still a lot of people suffering there. So any support will be more than welcome if you pay a visit. Thank you very much.
I see that Yasmin in the Q&A says, "Hi, everybody. Just wanted to support this message because my family, and not only my family, we survived the Hurricane Harvey in Texas with no damage. I post information in the Spanish Keshe Foundation and in the Golden Age of GANs." So it seems like there's other success stories out there, you might say, as well.
Yes, and this was a boost for those people to come forward too. I requested these last year, and it will be a great help for people if they have any images and any information of how they achieved this. Then we can share it with more people.
We have
Because
Yasmin. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but he had his hand up, and now he's a panelist, so he can actually speak on this. Yasmin, are you there? Can you open your microphone? I'll unmute you. Maybe you haven't figured out where that button is. Here, let me try that. Go ahead, Yasmin. Perhaps your microphone is not hooked up correctly or some other issue. We're not hearing you, Yasmin. You may have to restart your Zoom in order to hook up the audio correctly, or go to the preferences and sort out your audio connection there. Okay, I think we'll have to wait a minute to hear back from him.
I think his question was in the Q&A though too.
Yeah, I already asked. Said the question, and he had his hand up and wanted to talk apparently. So, okay. Stella asks in the Q&A, does the plasma protect from harmful frequencies, fires, or geoengineering effects?
some of these topics can be answered, and yes, some of them can. We have advised people to use their nano-coated copper infinity loops to protect them from irradiation or field strengths which your body can't sustain so easy. Like when you have towers from mobile phones or high electricity, high tension cables which are passing through close, which gives you headaches, which gives you nausea, all sorts of problems. We simply advise them to hang them on the windows and to place them wherever you need and wherever you are comfortable, because through their process, they absorb the fields which you are not feeling so comfortable with. I apply them, and we send these pictures quite a few times out and circulating on Facebook. We apply them on the front and the back of our computer, on our mobile phones, and you can stay much longer in those fields because they don't harm you no longer. The decontamination, that is a different topic. Therefore, you can find some guidance if you connect with one of the knowledge seekers, to which workshops in public you can go and listen to, because all this knowledge is available to everyone. We share freely because we want to support everyone with whatever problem you have. And maybe there will be already knowledge seekers responding to your question to support you and to guide you where you can find the information. Thank you.
Yes, she mentioned specifically also the California fires as an example.
For the fires, we have not gone into that testing. I requested this before because we used to have one of our knowledge seekers used to be a firefighter, and he was asking for this kind of information. But then through circumstances, he disappeared, and I could not work with him any longer or share information or request any information. So firefighters or even knowledge seekers, please do try to see with which kind of gases application you can contain a fire. As it is being requested, maybe the time is right now that we will receive the answers for this, because that time I couldn't carry on because he just disappeared. So it will be provided, because knowledge seekers are very happy when they can go on these kind of expeditions of trying, and then they come back with the feedback. It works this way and you have to apply this way. So I will be more than happy to receive some information from different knowledge seekers and bring it to the teachers, bring it into the classrooms, make sure we are aware of what you discover. Thank you very much.
And part of it is on, excuse me, on the physicality level in terms of the way the ganses might interact with fire and that sort of thing. But there's also the idea of how our own ganses interact with the environment. In other words, how our physicality and our soul can actually make changes in the environment according to our wish and according to how we set it up. That protection field is, as Mr. Keshe explains in the teaching that we listened to earlier, there's the interaction between the GANs and our own GANs in terms of there's emotional connection that's able to set up these fields, which it makes sense to me that if you can protect against hurricane, then it would also be a protection against fire, because often, well, always in fact, with the fires, especially in California, there's very strong. Sorry, we're getting a bunch of interference here from an open microphone. It's okay now. The fires blow very, the winds blow very strongly, especially in California. That's what gets the fires going so much. So that if you can protect against wind, or at least make some changes in your local environment in that regard, then it seems like it would be protective against fire, or at least make things much better. Stands to reason, at least. But maybe there are specific things that we can do in regards to fire.
Yeah, you're correct, Rick. That's part of it. And all the explanation you have given is something that for new people, they have to be informed about those ways of working with the ganses before they start creating anything of the knowledge. Is that they have to be aware how their intent is, for what it's supposed to serve for, and to be very cautious that it is something they are creating. They are creators of something that will serve other souls, other beings, and they have to be very conscious how they apply this, because this is explained when you listen to Tom, that it was always with love and care, and always the reason why it was applied. It's not just to go and pour ganses, it's not just to apply them, but to be aware of the underlying truth. When you are a creator, know what you create and for what you create. And something I wanted to add to this, because if you have these kind of horrendous fires, it might be very good to apply them in zones and then test it out, that the fires do not trespass once they even have started. The other way is to how to dampen the fires when they are in full force burning. That is something that I could not discuss with the firemen. One thing extra I want to advise is, when you have burn wounds, just spray with the CO2 gas water and you will see the difference. It brings so much relief of pain. The healing of the wounds go much smoother, and you get your senses back much faster. And the same is always applicable for animals. Please do not forget your animals when they are damaged. You can use the same knowledge as you use for a human being. Thank you.
Now, Estella wanted to say something about that. So, Estella, would you like to say what you wish there?
Hi, I'm in Argentina right now, but as soon as I return, I'm going to see some other KSers in California, and I think it would be great to work together because it's not only the electricity, I mean, it's the dirty electricity, it's the geoengineering, it's the fires, it's all the poison in the plants. There is a lot of aluminum in the plants and the trees. And if we can create a common wish to work together, because it's not only to protect us, it's also to help the California environment is being depleted. And, you know, and I think also works with the earthquakes too. When you put an intention, the earth works with you.
So to be clear, what you're suggesting is to work with others in a group, perhaps, to increase the effects more?
Yes, I think I'm taking the private class, and you know, it's like learning and growing together in trying to do the gangs and maybe get connected with what we see, you know, how the plants and everything change, and take it like this similar experience in the island and put in intention, and I guess we're going to learn as we go.
Yes, indeed. I was part of a gardening group at one point, and part of the idea with the group was to bless the garden before you plant it. And the idea there was you get together as a group and just do a little ceremony that would set the intention and make the connection between yourself and the garden, and some seeds would be planted. And you know, you might in the old tradition, you would mix the saliva from your mouth with the seeds. You'd actually put the seeds in your mouth and keep them in there a while, enough to mix with the saliva, and then plant the seeds. And that would be mixing your own gans with the gans of the soil and the seeds and so on. So right away, at the very beginning of the garden, you would already have the connection between in the amino acids and the ganses, which we know are related to expressions of feeling and of emotion involved with that.
Thank you. It's a great idea, because March is coming and that's the time when you start preparing the garden. So thank you.
And maybe just by that simple action of including our own saliva, our own gans in a while in a garden, maybe that's the ancient way of protecting the garden. And if you have a ceremony where you set your intention before the planting of the garden, which, when you think about it, virtually every ancient civilization has some sort of ceremony about the the garden, or the creation of the fertility of the soil and all that sort of thing. So it does make sense in a plasmatic way.
Any more questions or advice, or maybe the experience of how the GANs worked for them?
We have Yasmin. He says he's on another computer now and he can talk. So let's see if we can try to find him here. Yasmin, can you speak now?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Buenos días en español. Greetings from Houston, Texas. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Keshe, Caroline, Ursula, and all of you guys that I am following the teachings, and my friend Heather Bryan, who was the first who bring the technology to my life. And we got the opportunity to give this testimony that in the community, the building community that we are living since 10 years in Houston, we survived the hurricane. We also, we are so glad that we follow what you said, Caroline, all the times you text or said that we needed to bring the water to the river or to the gardens or fountains. We live very close, maybe less than 2 miles from the Brazos River, that is one of the biggest rivers in the Texas area. And this river flooded Houston. So we sent some pictures and some videos where we could show that in the area we live, the river contained his flood. We could be the first to be flooded, and we didn't. So also we have a lot of trees, and the trees, we didn't lose just one. And we live in a community that is a multicultural community. Of course, we set an intention, and I think we were not just the one, but we are so blessed that a lot of families here didn't lose their properties. And I'm so blessed. I am just crying again because it's beautiful. Also, I remember Mr. Keshe said, when you drink the water, because we use it for everything. I just a mom with a 4-year-old, and I cook with the ganses with the plasma water. I remember I spray in the walls. I remember we used the dryer machine to create a torus, the biggest torus. I remember my friend told me that. And also remember Mr. Keshe said that if you eat it and go to the toilet, and he said, remember all the places could go when you pee or you poop. And I think it's also, yes, it's true, because how well, if I can think about it, all the ways that water went, because it's a big area that we got the fortune to be safe. And I just want to support what Tom says, because it's true. And also, this is a city, and I can imagine all the people could be safe. I have friends that they lost everything, and in a just few miles from this area. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a pretty good testimonial, I would say, in terms of being very similar to what the experience of Tom has had, I'd say. When we look at what Tom's put in the video here, I just posted, he says, let's just look at this as interesting data and see if anyone else has had a similar experience. And I think that once we put this idea out there, we'll find that more and more people will participate in that and indeed have similar experiences.
Also, I want to add something, Rick, if you may.
Yes.
Okay, I forgot to tell that also we got a lot of tornadoes. This area wasn't experiment tornadoes during the hurricane or before, and we got like more than 20 tornadoes passing around all over the area. Maybe everybody could follow the hurricane information, but the tornadoes was just like, you don't have a lot of time to do something. And also we are blessed to that this oasis, this big bubble could help us to avoid the tornadoes. The tornadoes move out from this area. They don't know. Well, now I know because I am listening Mr. Keshe teachings, but it's wonderful too. We got that big hurricane and also tornadoes here. So it's another testimony for tornadoes is working too. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, is there any other comments or questions from people here? Okay. Just trying to see if there's any more questions. I'm seeing more questions happening right now. There is a question from Yvonne from Wikipedia. Can a female tree be created from the male as no female plant has ever been discovered? I'm not sure if we'd have to look into that, I guess, and check it out.
Can you repeat that again, Rick, please?
I don't understand the question. I'd have to look it up in Wikipedia, I guess. It's something about a reference to Wikipedia, and she says, can a female tree be created from the male as no female plant has ever been discovered? I don't know what to say. We'd have to. I don't know. I don't think that's relevant. I think she just was trying to put something as a link in the chat there.
We can present it to Mr. Keshe and see what he answers on Thursday. Maybe it's a question which is worth to really look into. This.
Okay, maybe she can frame the question and ask it during the workshop. Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else about that topic, there's a question from Adam who says, I would like to know if there's anything about the Keshe Foundation translated into Brazilian Portuguese. Well, there's certainly lots of Portuguese. If you look at the Knowledge Seekers workshops, I think you'll find most of them have been translated into the Portuguese, for example. And I believe isn't there a Portuguese, I believe there's a Portuguese playlist in the YouTube as well. I'd have to look that up. If anyone has a link for that and can put it in the chat, then Flint can put it back to wherever that comment came from. Okay, well, we do have a reading available of the Earth Council Constitution with
yes, Rick, that might be a good idea. And then if people still have questions, it gives them some time to bring them after the reading of the Constitution. And then we can see where our topics lead us. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Mosfek, are you ready to go?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, hello.
Yes, I'm ready. And can I share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, this is the wrong screen, sorry. Can you see it?
No, we see your...
You see a blank screen now?
a blank screen, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Something
You might have
went
to
wrong.
reshare. If you bring up your
Okay.
screen first and then reshare.
Okay. So, all right. Hang on a second.
Still searching.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
No, something went. Hang on a second. I have two screens and one for the same application. One is being shown, but the other one is not coming up. Let me. Okay, I think I'm all right. Hang on a second. I think I'm good now. Okay, let's see whether it works now. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we see the logo, and yep, we can see you scrolling up there and so on. It's in its edit mode.
Okay. Okay, so this is from my laptop. So so this is Mosfek Rashid, and I'll be reading the Earth Council Constitution in Bengali. And so I'll proceed. And you can hear me all right, I believe. All right. আমরা এই নীল পৃথিবীর সাথে সংযুক্ত সব আত্মা প্রস্তুত করছি নীল পৃথিবীর সংবিধান। এক দেশ, এক গ্রহ, এক জাতি। সংবিধান। পৃথিবীর পরিষদ তৈরি করা হয়েছে যাতে প্রত্যেক প্রাণী সমান অধিকার পায় এবং পৃথিবী ও এর বাইরের সব প্রাণী ও বাসিন্দার মধ্যে আর কোনো রকম গোলযোগ ও যুদ্ধ না হয়। যুদ্ধের শেষ এবং শান্তি প্রতিষ্ঠা করা সম্ভব শ্রেষ্ঠ প্রাণীদের ক্ষমতার উপলব্ধিতে। শান্তির পথে এগোনোর সমাধান অন্য আত্মা অথবা শারীরিক প্রকাশে কে অপদস্থ ও হেয় করায় নয়, বরং বিপক্ষের সাথে সংলাপ এবং আত্মার উন্নত করার ক্ষমতায়। শান্তি এই গ্রহের প্রত্যেক জীবনের প্রতিটি পদক্ষেপের লক্ষ্য। পরিষদ এই কার্যক্রমের পতাকা নিয়ে এই পৃথিবীর শান্তির পরিবেশ প্রতিষ্ঠায় নিয়োজিত। যারা এই গ্রহের অথবা এখানকার বাইরের যে বাসিন্দারা এখানে বাস করতে চায় এবং এই গ্রহের যারা মহাশূন্যে বাস করতে চায় তাদের জন্য শান্তি জীবনের প্রধান ভিত্তিপ্রস্তর। সকল জাতির বিবর্তনের শান্তির দোলা এই পৃথিবী। আমরা এই পৃথিবীর পরিষদ পৃথিবীর পরিষদ মানি যে সৌরজগৎ, গ্যালাক্সি, বিশ্বব্রহ্মাণ্ড ও ইউনিকসের অংশ পৃথিবী। এই গ্রহ ও এর বাসিন্দার প্রতিপালনের লক্ষ্যে পৃথিবীর সৃষ্টিচক্রে যোগ দেওয়া প্রয়োজন। এর ফলস্বরূপ তারা এখানকার বিবর্তন চক্র অতিক্রম করে একটি পরিপূর্ণ ও শান্তিপূর্ণ অস্তিত্বে উন্নত হয়। আমরা মানি মায়ের মতো পৃথিবীর নিজের আত্মা সহ জীবন্ত। প্রত্যেক পরমাণু, গাছপালা, জন্তু জানোয়ার, মানুষ, পোকামাকড়, জীবাণু এবং যারা এখনো অজানা তাদের আত্মা সৃষ্টিকর্তার অস্তিত্ব ও পৃথিবীর অংশবিশেষ। আমরা একসাথে তৈরি করি এই গ্রহের সম্মিলিত আত্মা। আমরা মানি এই গ্রহের অন্য প্রাণীদের প্রতিপালন ও উন্নত করা প্রয়োজন এবং যাদের মধ্যে রয়েছে জন্তু, গাছ, বাস্তুতন্ত্র ও অজানা প্রাণী এবং সেই সাথে আছে ধরণী মাতা। সকলকে বড় ও উন্নত হতে দেওয়াই জীবনের উন্নত হয়, কেবল পৃথিবীতেই নয় বরং এখানে সমস্ত যা আছে সবকিছুতেই, কারণ আমরা সবকিছুরই অংশ। সকলের মঙ্গলের জন্য একসাথে কাজ, সাহায্য ও সহযোগিতা করা পৃথিবীর পরিষদের প্রধান কর্তব্য। আমাদের উদ্দেশ্য সারা পৃথিবী ও এখানকার সব প্রাণীদের সহায়তা করা। আমাদের তৈরি শিক্ষা ও একতার পরিবেশ সব প্রাণী তাদের নিজেদের মতো করে উন্নত। পরিষদের 6 সদস্যের পৃথিবীর 6 সদস্যের পরিষদ। একজন সদস্য রয়েছে পৃথিবীর প্রতিটা মহাদেশের জন্য এবং সেগুলো হচ্ছে আফ্রিকা, এশিয়া, অস্ট্রেলিয়া, ইউরোপ, উত্তর আমেরিকা এবং দক্ষিণ আমেরিকা। প্রত্যেকে তারা মহাদেশের মানুষ এবং সকল প্রাণীর চাহিদা ও ইচ্ছার প্রতিনিধি। নির্বাচন পদ্ধতি: সদস্যরা কমপক্ষে 2 মহাদেশের থেকেছে এবং কমপক্ষে 2টি ভাষা জানে। এই কারণে দূরদৃষ্টির মধ্যে দিয়ে মানবতার চাহিদা বিবেচনা করা সম্ভব। আত্মার স্বচ্ছতা: পৃথিবীর পরিষদের 6 সদস্যের সেবা এই ক্ষেত্রে তাদের আত্মার উপলব্ধি এবং শারীরিক বহিঃপ্রকাশে। পৃথিবীর নির্দেশ, সাহায্য বা সেবায় দেওয়া ও রক্ষায়। আমাদের আত্মার উপলব্ধি এমনভাবে আনা যাতে অন্তরের শক্তি আমাদেরকে পরিচালনা করে অন্য আত্মাদের সংযোগ এবং শান্তিময় সহাবস্থানে। আমরা চাই প্রত্যেক জীবিত আত্মা সর্বশ্রেষ্ঠ রূপে প্রকাশ হয় পৃথিবী নামের এই নীলগ্রহে। আমাদের আত্মার শারীরিক বহিঃপ্রকাশে স্বাধীনতায় বাস করি আমরা শান্তি, ভালোবাসা ও বিশ্বাস নিয়ে পৃথিবী ও মহাশূন্যে। আমাদের ইচ্ছা এই সৃষ্টির সব জীবিত প্রাণী বসবাস করুক শান্তি, স্বাচ্ছন্দ্যে ও একতায়। সব সম্পদ সকল প্রাণীর জন্য সমান ও সঠিকভাবে ব্যবহার করার সময় এখনই। পৃথিবীর পরিষদ উল্লেখিত উপায়ে দেয় সব প্রাণীর সাহায্য ও সেবা। 1. মেলামেশার স্বাধীনতা, মত প্রকাশের স্বাধীনতা। 3. চলাফেরায় স্বাধীনতা। 4. ক্ষুধা থেকে মুক্তি। 5. অভাব থেকে মুক্তি। 6. নিজ আত্মার পথ বোঝার স্বাধীনতা, শেখার স্বাধীনতা। 8. সমাজ কল্যাণে নিজের প্রতিভা ও আগ্রহের সদ্ব্যবহারের স্বাধীনতা। 9. আত্মার মাধ্যমে শারীরিক বহিঃপ্রকাশের উপায় ও সময় নির্ধারণের স্বাধীনতা। 10. অন্যের সম্পত্তি হওয়া থেকে মুক্তি। শান্তির জন্য নতুন প্রযুক্তি এবং তথ্য প্রকাশ এর দমনের থেকে মুক্তি। 12 দেওয়া নেওয়া স্বাধীনতা। 13 চিন্তার স্বাধীনতা। 14 ভালোবাসা এবং দানের স্বাধীনতা। 15 পছন্দের স্বাধীনতা। 16 ভাষার স্বাধীনতা। 17 অর্থ ব্যবস্থা থেকে মুক্তি। 18 শান্তির থেকে মুক্তি, কোনো বন্দি দশা এবং প্রাণনাশ নয়। 19 গোলযোগ এবং যুদ্ধ থেকে মুক্তি। 20 পরাধীনতার ভয় থেকে মুক্তি। থাকতে পারে না কোনো দেশ অথবা এলাকার সীমারেখা এবং কোনো পার্থক্য বর্ণ, জাতি, বিশ্বাসের পথ, সংস্কৃতি অথবা আর্থিক বিভেদ, যেগুলো ওর মধ্যে দিয়ে আমাদেরকে আলাদা করা হয়েছে এবং একজন আরেকজনের উপর সুবিধা নিয়েছে। কোনো স্থান নেই বংশমর্যাদা ও উত্তরাধিকারী নেতৃত্বের, যার মধ্যে অন্তর্ভুক্ত রাজশাসন, পারিবারিক একনায়কত্বতা ও রাজকীয় পদবি। ভয় থাকতে পারে না কোনো অপরাধের শাস্তির। যাদের মধ্যে রয়েছে ভুল, তাদের আত্মার উন্নয়নে শেষ হয়ে যায় কারাদণ্ড ও মৃত্যুদণ্ড। আত্মার পর্যায়ে জ্ঞান ও শিক্ষায় সব প্রাণী নিজেদেরকে উন্নত করে। শাস্তির স্থান নেই আত্মার পর্যায়ে, যেখানে রয়েছে নিজের ক্ষেত্রশক্তির উপলব্ধি। কোনো দরকার নাই আর্থিক ব্যবস্থা, যেটা বস্তু ও সেবার বিনিময়ে কাজ। আমরা এমন পরিবেশ তৈরি করতে পারি যাতে সমাজে অর্থের স্থান নেই। যখন সব প্রাণীর চাহিদা মিটে যায়, তখন কাজ অন্যের ও নিজের আনন্দের জন্য। আর্থিক ব্যবস্থা সরিয়ে নেওয়ায় এই নীল পৃথিবীতে আসে সুস্থ মানব সমাজ ও সকলের মধ্যে প্রকৃত ভালোবাসার যুগ। কাজ করা প্রকৃত আনন্দ অথবা অন্যের সেবার খুশি ও আত্মাকে উন্নত করায়, এমনকি নিজেদেরও। যারা সেবা করতে চায়, সিদ্ধান্ত নেওয়ার ও পথ প্রদর্শনের দায়িত্বে, তারা আত্মার উপলব্ধি ও আনন্দ, there is something that's blocking this, আনন্দ ও কর্তব্য পরিপূর্ণ করে। বোঝার ক্ষমতার উন্নতি আমাদেরকে জানায় আত্মার একমাত্র ক্ষেত্র শক্তি, যার ফলে অন্যদের সেবা করা যায় এবং সমস্ত মানবতা হয় উন্নত। এইরকম মানুষ অন্যদের অনুপ্রাণিত এবং আলোকিত করে। অন্যদের সেবা করা সম্মতি ও মানুষের আত্মা থেকে আসে নেতৃত্ব। আমরা সব ধরন ও আকারের প্রাণীকে সম্মান করি এই নীল পৃথিবীতে এবং এর বাইরে। এই গ্রহের প্রত্যেকেরই একই স্বাধীনতা। একে অপরের সাথে মর্যাদা ও সম্মান দেখিয়ে শান্তিতে থাকা এই স্বাধীনতার অন্তর্ভুক্ত। সকলে নিজের মনের মতো করে বাস করতে পারে, যতক্ষণ তারা অন্যের অবস্থা বুঝে সম্মানের সাথে চলে। এই গ্রহের সব প্রাণীর প্রয়োজন অভাবমুক্ত বসবাসের ব্যবস্থা। বাসস্থান, পানি, খাবার, নিরাপত্তা, জিনিসপত্র ও শক্তি ক্ষেত্রের সাধারণ ব্যবহার গুরুত্বপূর্ণ এবং সেই সাথে আছে শান্তি ও সচ্ছলতা, যাতে মন হয় সজীব ও আলোকিত। সকল ভিন্নতা, আলিঙ্গন ও অনুষ্ঠানে জীবনের সম্পদ, যা স্রষ্টার একমাত্র বহুমুখী প্রকাশ। প্রত্যেক প্রাণীকে সুযোগ ও অনুপ্রেরণা দেওয়ার প্রয়োজন জ্ঞানার্জনে। বিশেষত মানবতার দরকার এই জ্ঞান চর্চা ও অর্জনের স্বাধীনতা, যেখানে শুধু বাঁচার জন্য কাজ করার প্রয়োজন নেই। মানুষের স্বাধীন ও দায়িত্বশীল হওয়ার উপায় গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। আত্মার সঠিকভাবে জীবনের পথ পরিচালনায় সমানভাবে উপকৃত হয় সমস্ত সৃষ্টি। প্রথমবারের মতো মানব ইতিহাসে আত্মার পর্যায়ে মুক্তির প্রকাশ ছোটবেলায় আত্মাকে জানার শিক্ষায়। যে কোনো জায়গায় প্রাকৃতিক দুর্যোগের সময় ভেদাভেদ ভুলে সকলের সহযোগিতা আমাদের এগিয়ে আসা উচিত, এগিয়ে আসা প্রয়োজন। এবং okay, something is again blocking this. এগিয়ে আসা এবং বোঝার প্রয়োজন এই গ্রহের বাস্তুতন্ত্র এবং জীবনচক্রে সব প্রাণীর চাহিদা। প্রাচুর্য এবং দুর্যোগ উভয় সময়ই সব প্রাণীর সুযোগ ও অসুবিধা নিশ্চিত করা। যখন গোলযোগ ঘটে তখন শান্তিপূর্ণ সমাধানের জন্য সকল পক্ষের সাথে আলোচনা করে শান্তিপূর্ণ সমাধানে আসা, কারণ আমাদের উদ্দেশ্য সমস্ত মানবতার চিরন্তন শান্তি। এটা তখনই সম্ভব যখন সব পক্ষের প্রয়োজনীয়তাকে সঠিকভাবে বিবেচনা করা হয়। সব প্রাণী মানসিক এবং শারীরিক ক্ষতির থেকে রক্ষা পাওয়ার অধিকার রাখে। সিদ্ধান্ত নেওয়ার পদ্ধতি। সংখ্যাগুরুরা কোনো সংখ্যালঘুদের স্বাধীনতার সীমা অতিক্রম করতে পারে না। সংলাপ এবং মানুষের আত্মার উন্নয়নে আসে ঐক্যমত। সব সিদ্ধান্ত সকলের মঙ্গলের জন্য। সব প্রাণীকে সকল বিষয়ে সমান ও সঠিকভাবে ব্যবহার করা এবং সম্মান দেওয়া। প্রাণের আত্মার সব কাজ শান্তিপূর্ণভাবে পরিচালনা করে। আমাদের উদ্দেশ্য পৃথিবী এবং এর সব অধিবাসীদের মধ্যে সবসময় শান্তি আনা, সকলের চাহিদা মেটানো, এটা করার একমাত্র পথ। আমন্ত্রণ। সবচেয়ে ছোট থেকে সবার বড় সকল প্রাণীরা আসুন আস্বাদন, উদযাপন এবং আলিঙ্গন করতে শান্তি, ভালোবাসা, বিশ্বাস ও স্বাধীনতায়। মানুষ ও অন্য সকলের চেতনাকে উচ্চতম বিকাশে আত্মার উন্নতি রয়েছে সকল প্রাণী। সকলে নামিয়ে রাখুন আক্রমণ, হিংসা ও বিভেদের অস্ত্র। শান্তি এবং সচ্ছলতা আসুক আমাদের এই পৃথিবী নামের নীল গ্রহে। সব জীবিত প্রাণীর সমস্ত সৃষ্টির সাথে একসাথে বসবাস এই নীল পৃথিবী ও সমস্ত বিশ্ব ব্রহ্মাণ্ড জুড়ে। বাহ্যিক ব্যবহারের দিক নির্দেশনের নীতির দরকার যতক্ষণ না মানুষের আত্মা বুঝতে পারে কিভাবে বিশ্ব ব্রহ্মাণ্ডের নীতি অনুযায়ী জায়গা মতো কাজ করা যায়। সৃষ্টির বিভিন্ন স্তরের সব কিছু জানার অধিকার আছে আত্মার। সব জীবন্ত আত্মা শান্তিতে বসবাস করা ও বড় হওয়ায় সম্মান, স্বাধীনতা রয়েছে পৃথিবী এবং এর বাইরে। সব প্রাণের আত্মা আনতে পারে সবচেয়ে উন্নত প্রতিভা, ক্ষমতা ও সৌন্দর্য সমস্ত সৃষ্টির অংশগ্রহণ ও উন্নয়নে। ক্ষমতা ফিরিয়ে নাও। যেই ক্ষমতা এই পৃথিবীর সব প্রাণকে পরিচালনা করে। কোনো নেতা অথবা সংগঠন যারা অন্যকে নিয়ন্ত্রণ এবং শাসনের তা আসে আমাদের অন্তর থেকে, অন্যদের ভালোবাসা এবং দানে। পৃথিবীর সংবিধানের প্রধান লক্ষ্য সব জাতি, জীবিত প্রাণের শান্তি, ভালোবাসা, বিশ্বাস ও স্বাধীনতা, এমনকি সৃষ্টির অন্যান্য অস্তিত্বেরও। এই সংবিধান সব প্রাণকে ক্ষমতা দেয় আনন্দের সাথে সঠিক কাজ করায় এবং অন্য আত্মার পাশে থেকে সেবা দিয়ে সৃষ্টির সৌন্দর্য প্রকাশে। এই সংবিধান তরলের মতো এবং প্রয়োজনে পরিবর্তন করা যেতে পারে, যেমন উদাহরণস্বরূপ শান্তিতে একসাথে থাকার আচরণ, মানুষের মধ্যে শান্তি চুক্তি, যুদ্ধ অথবা যে কোনো আক্রমণের প্রবণতা এই নীল পৃথিবীতে এবং বিশ্ব ব্রহ্মাণ্ডে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় অন্যান্য অস্তিত্বের সংযোগে। এই নীল পৃথিবীর সংযোগের পরিবর্তন করা হবে প্রতি বছরের জানুয়ারিতে। পরিশিষ্ট এই অংশ খালি রাখা হয়েছে ভবিষ্যতের প্রয়োজনীয় পরিবর্তনের জন্য, যার ফলে এই নীল পৃথিবী এবং এর বাইরের স্থায়ী শান্তি বজায় থাকে। নীল পৃথিবীর মানুষের আত্মার লেখা যারা পৃথিবীর পরিষদের সদস্য: অ্যালেক্স এগবারন, পারভেজ রাশফান, মেহরান কেশ, লিসা ম্যাকডোনাল্ড, ওয়েন ইয়াং, রিকার্ডো ভিলভোসলা। যোগাযোগের ইমেল peace@earthcouncil.org. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mosfeq. Complete with the sirens and horns and other background effects. Thank you. You live definitely in a busy area there.
Sorry, you could hear some background noise, so sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. It was a good effect in a way. We're here for world peace, but we hear sirens in the background at the same time, so it's kind of unusual, but at the same time, that's the way the planet is. Okay, let's see here. Let's get our background picture up. Get that going.
Do we have more extended questions on the topic previous, or no questions came in?
I'm just checking. I don't see. I don't see anything additional at this point. Anything from your end, Vince, or Yasmin says she has a question. So let's check that out. Yasmin, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Caroline. I received from another student an information. I don't remember Mr. Keshe saying that, but about having the ganses and all the nanotechnology using for the hurricane. I shall create more ganses and be and more nanotechnology because they kind of lose the effectiveness of the gas. Is that correct? Is that right? I didn't understood that when Mr. Keshe talked about the plasma in that way, but maybe it's my English because
Are you
it
saying?
depends.
Go.
You go, Rick, or me?
Oh, go ahead, Carolyn.
It depends if you're using them for health systems or you use them in nature.
Well, I use all my GANs, my crystals, GANs, well, dry GANs. When I was doing my praying when the hurricane and the tornadoes, but I was using it for also to purify the water. But
it's okay. I understood your question.
Thank you.
If you listen back to what Rick brought as a part of Mr. Keshe's teaching, he says that it is there permanent. Because how it was created and how it was given, it sustains the energy. It will not disappear. It's only when, if you use them, the difference with health application, that means that the person depletes the energy faster and because of the need. And that's why we advise to replenish the ganses, because people say, you know, we make GANS pads and then we don't know how long and if they're still working, and there is a lot of confusion. And it came up in one of the private teachings among the students. And I said, there is a very easy trick to know if your GANS pad is still working. And that is when you use the simple system, which is a plastic zip bag, and you put a paper towel, like from a kitchen, or serviette in it, and you add your GANS water, plasma water with a little bit of GANS, let's say CO2. We usually always go with a mixture CO2 and zinc. And we always add a few drops of CEO water with it so that you do not create fungus among your pads. Then try to extract the air as much as you can, and then you seal it. Now, when you take that pad in your hands, it feels cool, very nice cold. It does not go to the room temperature. Now, if you're in, let's say, 2, 3, 4 weeks, you pick the pad up and you touch it and it is nice and cool, it means the pad is still active. That's the easiest and the simplest way to explain that your pad stays active. It doesn't lose its field strength. But for you, and as many other people, to have reassurance, that's a simple trick to find out. But when you work in the environment, and you go back to the video, the first part which Rick showed from Mr. Keshe, next year, that protection will be still there, because it is, as was taught in so many different teachings, it is applying the OASIS system. And it is there to sustain and to prevent whatever is needed, and it's a shelter system. So don't be scared. Your work with your blessing, wherever you have poured the ganses or wherever you have applied them, they carry on working. It's only in certain cases we have noticed, but then we have to go into extreme details where they deplete their energy much faster, then those are excluded. But this has nothing to do with how we are explaining it now to apply it in the environment. Any other question? Or maybe Rick can add something to it.
I think you covered it pretty good there. Again, I think although the ganses will still be, in the environment and doing their thing, it's probably a good idea to reinforce one's intention for that protective field every so often as well, if not daily, in the sense that it is our participation in that really makes the difference. I think we have to keep it active in a way. Maybe that's a way to check in, whether the check in every so often with our physicality ganses, what we carry around with us, and sense whether the other ganses in the environment are doing that protective thing, or do they need to be reinforced? Is it time to go around with I think Tom Sellis had like a backpack sprayer that he had the CO2 GANS water in it, and he would go around and spray around the area where the garden was and so on. And that was part of his sort of a ritual, you might say, but part of his efforts to create that protective field. So we always have to remember we're part of the picture when it comes to this technology. That's what, in a way, makes it different.
Yeah, because if you analyze what Mr. Keshe was teaching, the information sits in it. If we can gather the funds necessary, let's say to have spray planes and to spray the GANS waters in designated places, because the whole foundation, all the knowledge seekers are day by day or day and night involved in this process. Your energy is always connected and is sustaining the whole process, how it's getting expanded. The more we give, the more we receive. So you generate the intent. And that's why this platform has come into life, to make sure we connect with as many people for the understanding how we can bring so much more peace among not only ourselves, but with our whole surroundings and everything that is present on this planet. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, Viola, to re-emphasize this question.
Now, a couple of things that we could discuss, I suppose, are a couple of things that came up when I was going through and re-listening to that video clip that we showed earlier from the 206th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. It occurred to me that we have different field strengths, you could say, being discussed here by Mr. Keshe and so on. So certain situations, like it was mentioned earlier, what about protection from, say, EMF or some sort of other fields, and from electromagnetic fields and radio waves and this kind of thing? Well, some of the early experiments that were done in Sasanos, 3 years ago or something like that, I think. Mr. Keshe had, and the other knowledge seekers that were there at the time, had a number of reactors set up in a certain configuration, and they were experimenting with these to get higher magnetic fields registered and so on. And one of the instruments they used to tell whether the reactor combination was working to create these stronger fields that they wished to experiment with was they had a radio, just an ordinary AM radio, sitting, playing in the lab space. And the idea there is when the reactors are all cooperating with each other and creating this greater, stronger field around the whole reactor area and the whole room, and in fact the whole building, then what happens is you lose the radio communication. It actually blocks the AM radio signals coming through to the radio. So the indicator that things are working is that you don't hear the radio. So they have it running all the time, and if it stops, then you know that things are working. So that's kind of an answer to the previous question about that sort of thing. These kinds of fields can be created under certain circumstances according to your wish and the types of reactors and combinations and so on. You know, that's part of the whole technology with the Keshe Foundation is for a spaceship in space, for example, is to create these protective fields around the spaceship. And those fields could project out many kilometers in front and around the spaceship in order to, you know, if you're traveling at very high speeds and talking about a physicality type spaceship in this case, then you're going to need protection around that spaceship, even in an Earth environment. If you're traveling at Mach 40 or something like that in our atmosphere, then even a grain of dust is enough to go through a solid sheet of metal at that kind of speed. So it's going to require protective shielding, and that's basically what we're talking about today. But doing it on even on a different strength of field. So there's many different strengths of fields. There's many different levels of field interactions and so on. And a lot of that has to do with our intent and our execution of the way the device is made or the way the situation is created. So there's like Bullet in the chat is having some trouble with the he wants us to describe the process again. Is it a CO2 spray on a paper in a Ziploc bag? Yeah, yes, if you search on Google, you should be able to find, you know, making a pain patch, or, you know, Keshe making pain patch, or Keshe pain patch, something like that. Should show several videos on people making these pain patches. But it's basically, if you review what Caroline said a few minutes ago on the video, then she said it very exactly, and I think it's pretty clear there. But maybe you could say it again, Caroline, just to reinforce it for people.
It's no problem, Rick. It's very simple. You take a plastic zip bag, you know, the ones which are sealing, which you usually use for keeping things dry. You know, from those rolls that you can absorb water or moist when you spilled something in the kitchen, we call them kitchen rolls. We moisturize them with the plasma water of CO2 and zinc water, and we add a little bit of the GANs itself to the water. Then we press as much air out of the bag as possible, and then we zip it. So don't make them too moist that you don't lose your water, your plasma water. Then when you touch it, it is, and don't forget, don't forget to add some CEO water, because the CEO water prevents the pad to go into fungus. So your pad can be used for a very, very long time. If you still see fungus appearing, don't use the pad anymore. Dispose of it and make a new one. And maybe add a little bit more of CEO water to it, that the pad can stay or have a longer lifetime. When you then test your pad, it feels cool. You know, like it's colder than the room temperature. That means that your pad is active. Now, you can double check this in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time. When you touch the pad, it can stay wherever you like. It does not need to go in a fridge. It doesn't need to go anywhere. It can just stay in a normal environment. When you touch it and you feel the coolness of the pad, it means your pad, we call it pain pad, stays active. It is still active. When it has the same temperature from where you picked it up, it means the life is gone out of it. It means it's no longer active. You can reboot your pad without throwing it away by just adding some fresh Gans waters to it and zip it again, and you will see it will change. It's a good technique to check and to be sure that your pad is working. But a lot of people are working even with pads where the Gans has been dried, and they have beautiful results with it.
Very good. Thank you, Caroline. I was just going to say that I've got the link from that Vince has passed on to me here from the KF Wikipedia, and you can see the link name at the top there, kfwiki.org/index, etc. for GANS patches. And it shows what you've been saying basically, and the method, procedure, and application and so on is discussed there. So people want to access that information. The KF Wiki is a good place to start with that kind of thing.
You can find a lot of information in there, and Dr. Klaus has made and done a very great job there with a lot of other knowledge seekers which have accumulated as much information and make sure that it is available for public without having to go and search in so many different places, because the knowledge is well dispersed everywhere in the social medias. And if you can pick up some names when you are now in this platform, if you link up with other knowledge seekers, they will be more than happy to help and to embrace you with the knowledge they have obtained until today. So don't hesitate, we are there for all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see that Tom mentions in the chat, Tom Salas I'm talking about, says, I think an important point to make is that water is the vehicle that we use, and water holds memory in the same way crystals do. So we should clean the memory of the water regularly if we don't want it to hold any unwanted information. Maybe you want to just talk about that a little bit, Tom. I've promoted you to panelist so that you can speak. Do you want to say something about that?
Hi there, good day.
Hi.
I was just doing some cleaning, and I saw that there was on one of the chats there, I saw the video I'd made was playing, so I tuned in and I could see you're all having a nice discussion about the potentials of creating the little plasma oasis. So yeah, the point I was just trying to make was that really for me, the information that Dr. Emoto put out
sorry, Tom?
I think we lost him.
The main information that Dr. Emoto put out is the last we heard.
Yeah, it's to do with the memory. And that's very important and very beautiful because we are composed of water as well. So we can, if you think about it, apply it to ourselves. And this is in the medical teachings very present, that how you change the field strength, how you change, we call it in the research up till now, they always refer to it as information, but in so many ways it's plasma field strength, because you work through the field strength of the plasmas which you initially created in matter state. But we always try to inform and make sure people are aware that we are working with the field strength, because if you think about it, if you have applied the GANs as Tom has done in his garden and the trees, the storm, the GANs water doesn't reach, let's say 10, 15 meter or 50 meter high. Huh? The water stays on the surface. It's the field strength which has created the oasis dome, as we call it, the field strength of the gases. So that's the plasma field. And that's the strength. You can imagine how strong it is if you know that you apply the water to the soil and to the plants, and that the tree absorbs it through its roots, the plants, the flowers, but that it is the whole environment which has not been touched. So the gas is not 50 meter or 10 meter or 20 meter high. It is because of the field strength that that place has stayed intact, because the house is about 5 meter, 3-4 meter high. I don't know for sure. Tom will have more information about this. But that's what you have to realize, that we are always working through the field strength and the positioning. Have you managed to get Tom back yet?
I thought he was just here, but seems to have disappeared again.
He will pop up. He will come back up if he gets his internet stable. Anybody else wants to know more?
I could maybe add a little bit, Caroline, if you want.
Hi, good evening. Your name,
Hi.
please.
It's Erik from Denmark.
Welcome and Happy New Year too.
Happy New Year to you also, all of you. I have, as some of you know, I have been working to heat my house, and so far I have not fully succeeded, but I got partly heated by the plasma. But you meet some obstacles on the way when you try to do this. And I have been thinking a lot about it. And we know that when we have two portions of GANs, not the same amount, then we have a field between them. And the strength of this field depends upon the ratio between the two GANs positions. And the higher the ratio, the more potential difference, whatever term you will use to define this, the harder the flow is. But we have to remember that just like the electron has a certain charge, and this charge it has is actually being revived all the time. It emits some energy and it gets some energy from the environment. And in my understanding, I see exactly the same with the GANs particles. So if we try to heat the house with GANs, and we make a very, very big potential difference in order to get some heat, then when we make this large potential difference, then we are creating a strong field and we are loading the bigger part very hard. And every GANs particle all the time receives energy from the environment and sends it further on again. So if you make a situation where you load the GANs particles harder than its ability to replenish its energy from the environment, then it gets exhausted. So as I see it, the amount of heat you can get with this system of making some kind of system of bags in your house, whatever method you would like to use to create the fields, I see it as important to consider the amount of GANs used. If you have a lot of GANs in the big part, then it is able to emit a stronger field continually without getting exhausted. And I think the reason we see the medical pads being quite stable for years is that we only use 1 to 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 patches, and it's not desirable in many cases to make them stronger than that, because then it gets too much for the body. But when we want to heat the house and create the field that protects the house from the external environment, and so that the house is dictated what temperature it should achieve, then you have to use much more GANs than you use in other cases in the health application. So this is how I see it for now. And I will continue with this until I see something else. And when you try to heat the house, you also have to remember that no chain is stronger than the weakest link. If you don't make an arrangement of GANs bags so you cover the house, so you don't have any weak spot where the external environment can get in and start dictating the temperature in the house, then you have a problem. So you really have to experiment and find some system in organizing your bags so that you can create this protective environment for the house. And one last thing, I remember Mr. Keshe said that if the storm had lasted a few days more, then it would have been destroyed, because then the GANs would have been exhausted. That was my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric about that? There was a question maybe you can help with, Eric. I can try to answer as well, from Andreas, who says, is it possible to measure the field strength with a Gauss meter or a microtesla meter? And Anything you would like to, you're an electrical person, right, Eric? Do you have an answer to that?
I think it was so simple. Mr. Keshe would not have asked if someone had a solution to that. Because
Yes.
Mr. Keshe is quite smart, and I think he do his homework, and I'm sure he has searched every possible measurement instrument to find something that can do this. But as for the AM radio you talked about, I have done experimenting with energy for many years, and the AM radio was one of the ingredients, because if you manage to get something working, then it also creates this field. All these old-fashioned so-called free energy devices, they all work on the same physics. The way Mr. Keshe has told us is a lot smarter way to do it, and also quite more easy to do it. But with these experiments, you could also stop the radio transmission, so you just hear noise, just like the background noise is amplified. So the white noise you typically hear when you have an AM radio not tuned into a station, this white noise gets stronger when you get something to work.
Right, and also I've noticed with my AM radio circuit detector that I have, if I'm close to a plasma ball, then it blocks all of the ordinary, AM radio signal. Basically, it's that plasma field. In that case, even of a plasma ball is pretty intense, and it has its own field around it that tends to block most of our other stuff.
It's the same story again, because when you have your plasma ball, it dictates the environment around it. So just like what we try to do in the house to dictate the environment in the house, so we get the temperature we want, independent on the outside temperature. The same goes for a radio signal. It's also an external field that comes in, but your plasma ball is so strong that it has a certain range, and within that range, it is so strong that it dictates the field and not the radio station positioned far away from you.
Yes, in fact, it has a field. Over a meter away from the plasma ball, and it's a definite field. Beyond that meter radius, it drops off just immediately. And you can use something like the field strength meter that Andreas talked about and detect that kind of field from a plasma ball as an example. And it's very, very definitive. It's like a sphere of field around it's actually not a sphere, it's more like a vortex around the ball of the plasma ball. So it's like more of an apple shape or a donut shape field coming out of the plasma ball. Anybody can try that, even with one of those simple electrical detectors that beeps when you use it. You can definitely tell where that field stops. There's like a Coulomb barrier, you could say, of this is my field, and if I was the plasma ball, I would be inside this sort of impenetrable area that would be my domain, and it drops off radically outside of that 1 meter radius. It's quite interesting. Along those lines, I wanted to show, now Mr. Keshe has experimented with different devices to notate the fields. So I just, out of curiosity, I wanted to tell people about it. And also, let me put it up here as a share. I went into just into my browser, and I put in 129 Tesla as the search coordinates for Google. So 129 Tesla should bring up all kinds of Tesla stuff. But what it brings up is some of the videos from the Keshe Foundation, from the breakthrough 129 Tesla from the Spaceship Institute lab, in this case, October of 2016 and so on here. And people can look at that if they like. It shows basically the peak reading of over 129 Tesla magnetic field using a special sensor, magnetic sensor apparatus, as you can see here, and so on. And that is actually a world record in magnetic field pulse. And it's you could see the pulses were increasing as through the video, and it finally actually you can see these the arrow moving up and down in the detector there. And anyway, actually, maybe I will just play the. I've got some music in there that might be not desirable, so I don't think I can play it, but I can show the. I'm not sure if it is or not, actually. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, I'll play the part that shows the large spike coming up here. Okay, you can see it's hard to read, but the meter says about 97 on it there now. Let me share the audio as well, because I'll have to optimize as well. So let me just reshare that part. And I'll go back a little bit. Okay, here we go. So you can see the arrows on the gauge there. There's big magnetic pulses going on at this time. Okay, so that was basically it on that. It's quite an interesting phenomenon, that's for sure.
For how long did this strength occur?
Well, it kept pulsing at that point. The meter actually takes the maximum. It was at, I think it was at 97 Tesla before it hit the 129 pulse that pushed it up. And you could see there's additional, it's kind of like an earthquake, and then you have aftershocks. Well, there was the major pulse, and then you could see a series of large pulses after that. but that was the maximum. And this was over many hours. I think several days of running tests like that before it started to build up. Eventually, it built up the magnetic fields, and finally expressed itself in these pulses that went over 100 Tesla, which is extremely strong. It would normally take literally the energy of pretty much an entire country in a micropulse to be able to do that in an ordinary lab. I think they've only
They have never reached that level.
Yeah,
not,
I think it's only
not even close. I think it's below 10 or 20 Tesla, the maximum they have got out of place.
I think there's one that they did over 100 Tesla recently. But
okay.
I think they blew up their equipment when they do it. It's very hard on their magnetic coils and so on. They have these copper coils and everything so carefully wound, and they put this huge power pulse through and massive amounts of energy, and it usually just melts everything to get the effect that they need. And then they have bragging rights from then on until the next experiment, and the next grant, and the next few $1 million to put into it. But in the case of Mr. Keshe, he worked with 20 watts of electricity or something, and just through the interaction and this concept of the free plasma that was being created in the center of this 4-core reactor combination that was running along with other reactors in a combination around it. Like you mentioned, Eric, the gradient being so important. Well, that was the important factor in that whole experiment that I just showed. That video, that arrangement of reactors, it was because of the gradient of another reactor that was down on the floor next to the main reactors that Mr. Keshe was running as the central, core reactors. And there's several other knowledge seekers reactors that were around, as well as others of Mr. Keshe's. And it was the gradient, the draw, you could say, from one of the other reactors that created the energy within the configuration that he was working with. So as you were saying, and the more that gradient, the more there's a big one and a small one, that's what creates that well, in this case, a pulse or a magnetic field. In the case that you're talking about, this heat energy, which is essentially what happens when magnetic fields rub together, you get heat.
Yes, and maybe I should add also that I have also tried to use some dynamic reactors for creating heat. But in that case, I very quickly experienced that this wear down of the GANs, that it got exhausted, because I use an infrared gun for measuring the wall temperature. And when I started the reactor, in seconds, the wall temperature rose 4 degrees. But within 15 minutes, it was completely neutralized, was back to normal, the temperature before I started it. And my theory about this is that we have learned that the stronger gives to the weaker. So one of the things I will try to exploit, and I think it's important for many people who feel the cold a little bit too much if they cannot afford to heat the house, and they have a cold environment to live in every day, that they maybe try make some more GANs and put it near the rotating reactor. my thought about this is that if you use the rotating reactor or just ordinary bags to create a field, and you ask more power of the GANs than there are particles to deliver this power, then if you have a large amount of GANs in a bottle, then according to the rules, when the reactor gets low in energy, get depleted, whatever you want to call it, and you have this GANs beside it, then it must give to the weaker. So this could maybe be used to get more heat in the house. I just in need of more GANs, so I cannot do these experiments right now, but I will soon get some more.
That'll be the cry of the future. More GANs, more GANs. We need more GANs.
Yes, we certainly need more GANs, and we have to also have to learn how to be better to make it. But that's another thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have Tom has mentioned he's might be back in action here. His internet's been fine all day. That the moment he started to chat, it went down. And we find that sort of issue seems to happen a lot with us here, but that's okay. We put up a protective field around ourselves and try to keep it all together. Tom, did you want to say something now or recreate what you were saying earlier?
Hi, Rick. No, I was just basically, I don't know how much of what I was saying you got before I got booted off there, but basically I was just saying that the water that we use for the plasma is needs its memory clearing if it, you know, depending on what job you've used it for, that it's it will retain the memory. And I would love to see some images of how we can change the structure of the water, the before and after. Like I mentioned Dr. Emoto's work. He gives a really nice visual of the change of structure of the ice crystals that he photographs, depending on what happens to it. So I think that's what important that people should know, that is that when we do drain the energy of the water, I believe that we can sort of zero it again and reinforce its strength just by using our intent and doing the same kind of clearing we would do with the crystal. We can do that with our plasmas. That was basically the point I wanted to make.
Okay, that's a good point. I know that at some point we will be showing some pictures of the frozen ice and the different field interactions and so on with that. I think in probably one of the next Knowledge Seekers workshops, Mr. Keshe would like to talk about that.
Great, I'd love to see that.
Otherwise, we can't really show Mr. Emoto's work unless we can get it not copyrighted. Go ahead, John. Is it John?
No, it was me. I was just saying that if I remember right, if you heat water above 78 degrees Celsius, then the water loses its structure, and that is the same as its memory. Mm. But I will advise, if you have the opportunity to get distilled water, use that, because distilled water is cleared, it's free of foreign matter if it's done properly, and so it is ready to accept fields from outside in a true way, not having some mind of its own when you start programming it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's best to do whenever possible, is to use the distilled water. Some circumstances it may not be possible. Tom, for you, is it easy to get distilled water, or are you you'd be using probably the local spring water more than anything else.
Yeah, what we do here is we use the plasma devices to structure the drinking water. You can buy what they call a garrafon here, which is just a big, I don't know, 10 liters of water that's drinking water, because you don't want to drink from the tap out here where I am. And so we use the different little plasma devices to structure the water, then use that structured water in the, if we're making patches or if we're sending out plasma water anywhere. So we kind of have plasma devices as a part of that process, because yeah, we can get, I mean, anywhere there's a gas station, you can usually buy distilled water in a little bottle if, you know, if you can't get it anywhere else, but it's more money. So I find it's cheaper if you do your own water structuring and then apply that afterwards.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Tom, about any other parts of our topics or anything else you wanted to bring up?
I missed a big chunk of the first part of the session there, but I would just say that talking about the plasma oasis, I've had loads of people have been asking me, you know, what systems and what did you use and what, and I think the key is it's not so much about what systems you've used and what type of plasma devices you've used and what have you. I think it's the connection between yourself, as I mentioned before. I tried to emphasize it, but I think it's more about your DNA being present, and then the plasma reinforcing or strengthening the fields that you use. If it's your garden or your home, if you're spraying the plasma, or like we did, if you put it in the paint of the walls or whatever, I think let your DNA be present. And let there be, as you said, spitting on the seeds. It's the same thing. Making your DNA very present, and then the plasma will just has something to grab hold of, is the way I kind of look at it. And at that point, the fields get stronger, and then you have a vehicle now where your intent is also comes into play, and it becomes a very, very integral part of the process. And so at that point, what do you want to happen? You know, and that's the way to get a stronger interaction between yourself and the area that you want to try and be the guardian of and look after.
Yes, good point, indeed.
So the folks who are, sorry, I'm just eating a bit of lunch as I'm speaking. Yeah, the folks who are sort of eager, very, very eager to know exactly what was used out there in Dominica, I don't even see it as so relevant, you know? People are looking for the physical, what did you use and how did you use it and exactly how did you apply it to be able to replicate that. And I don't see that it really works like that. I think once you're working with plasma, there are many, many, many ways that you can connect with it, depending on what it is. It can just be plasma water. It can be a Magrav device. It can be jars of GANs scattered around the place. To me, this is just my opinion. I mean, you know, take it or leave it, but I think that's more important, is just using plasma in whatever way, shape or form, and strengthening that connection with the DNA. I don't think it's so much to do with exactly what in the matter state you used, you know? So
when you think about it, we're walking around with probably, most of us, at least 50 kilos of GANs in our own physicality. And we're running around looking for GANs to use when we should be using our own GANs to, you know, we can create these fields ourselves.
Yeah, and we're talking about adding different reactors to put them next to the plasma to strengthen it and what have you, and just be aware that we are that reactor, and we have that same potential. So we can go searching for the more GANs. Just remember that we're the GANs, and we've got our plasma devices. Most of us are functioning very well, and put that into the equation, and there are ways of increasing and decreasing our fields. So just remember, and while you're searching for more GANs, just remember you're it, and you're there and you're present, So I keep saying the same thing, but I don't know if folks hear it, but I think that's important, is just get the connection going between yourself and whatever the plasma device is, or the liquid plasma, or whatever you've got access to. And be conscious that you, like I said, just to reinforce the point, clear that energy. If ever you feel that energy is getting hazy and it's losing strength, use yourself as the plasma reactor to replenish that, because you do have that ability.
Right on. Yes, I remember, like we looked at the 129 Tesla video there a short time ago, and I remember at that time, several of us around the world were running our own reactor combinations at that time, usually in this star configuration with 3 or 4 reactors running at once, rotating little spheres of GANs material. And so we're all trying to connect our reactors together at that time. And we were working, with Mr. Keshe. He suggested that to some of us. And we were all connected by video link to the one in Sasanos. And we had our own that were showing each other with video and so on. And we're also we're not just showing our reactors, we're also attempting to connect ourselves to our reactors and to these other reactors and so on. So it wasn't just a mechanical thing. It wasn't just a device-orientated experiment. This experiment involved the feelings of the individuals involved and the fields of the individuals involved. And that was actually, at the end of the experiment, way more important than the actual 129 Tesla, magnetic fields that were given out by this whole thing. At least in my mind, it was at that time. And
yeah, exactly. You've got everybody's watching the reactors and wanting to know what reactor is present. And I'm pretty sure there were some very strong human reactors there present at that moment in time.
That's right. And
as well as the strengthening of the fields that were coming externally from everyone else that was doing the experiments,
right. So it works both ways. Both ways in a way. And I remember at certain times when those peaks were coming on the meter and so on, like we were really paying attention, really tuned into this situation and so on. And you could feel it at times you'd feel it just before you'd see the meter going, so you would feel it before all the signals came through the systems, and the time lag and the that lapse of a few parts of a second or whatever. You would feel the effect before you'd see the effect. So it was interesting that way, and confirmed to me that was the more important aspect in a way. Also, for me, I was amazed the first time I heard this idea that Mr. Keshe described it in one of his very early interview videos, and he mentioned how to go. He was saying that he was talking about his reactors, the ones in Iran, and he was working with with special gases and so on at that time, special environment in these reactors. And he said that he would pray to his reactor before he would start it up, and he might start up a reactor 100 times in a day with different settings and different experiments and whatnot. And he would said that he would pray to his reactor and he would interact with it. And I thought, geez, that's an interesting way to look at things. And he said that his prayer would be, I hope you're going to have as much fun with this today as I am. And so he would basically give this blessing to the entities within this reactor. And he made that, to him, it was alive, and it was a living, interactive thing going on. So that,
yeah, right, and
woke me up a bit. Made me realize.
Also, you think of all the people that are present in those moments. If we're looking at that 129 scenario, and while everyone's buzzing around looking at the reactors and getting excited about it, is there a way that you could sit that? I'm sure, I don't think this will have happened, but maybe it did. But if everyone present in that moment there, is there a way that you can start strengthening your own fields as humans? Can you join hands? Would that strengthen the fields? Could you put your heads together in formation? Would that strengthen the fields? Could you, what were the ways that if you start looking at yourself as the reactor and you've got all these other dynamic reactors running, what can you physically do with your bodies that can strengthen those fields? What can you use? How can you use your body to make the reaction more dynamic? And while we're all buzzing around doing experiments like that, usually it's the last thing that you're thinking of. But if it's a way, who knows, you might have got it to 139 if everyone had held hands around the reactors and stuff. I mean, it sounds a little bit airy-fairy, but I think all that's in play here.
Yes, definitely. It's part of science that's been more or less ignored over the period of science, because the whole thing about science is it's supposed to remove the observer from the experiment. And that's the opposite of what we're talking about. We're talking about inserting the observer into the experiment, because that's the most important part of the experiment. Silly.
Which is where it becomes out of science and becomes spirit science, which to me is where things are moving naturally now. We've got this other part of the equation that we've got to put into it, because it's a nonsense thinking that the human element of spirit is not present there and it's not affecting the outcome. Of course it is. So science has now got to go to a place where it starts working with spirit, and I think that's what we're doing here. This is spirit science is one word package for it,
or science of the soul, you might say too.
Exactly.
Knowledge of that. And yeah, that's it's hard for people that are brought up in the sciencey kind of environment of modern, so-called modern science in modern education and a university background, that kind of thing, where again there's been this emphasis to, in most universities, it depends, but to separate science from religion and from spirit stuff and anything else that they can't measure with a so-called scientific instrument, at least the old type instruments. And that is, I mean, there's been a really strong wish to do that ever since science came around. That's the whole idea, is to try to keep it separate from all the religious inferences and separation of state and religion also goes with science that way. But now we see that more and more, especially they get into this quantum level of science, and things are getting, looking at it smaller parts, and then in looking at different dimensions and different ways that we can complete the picture, because the physicists and scientists, they're coming up against blocks in their theories that suddenly, when you get into the tiny wee world of the micro and nano and quantum and so on, the rules don't they don't apply the way they were supposed to. And all of a sudden they have to make up stuff like, oh, well, there's 80% of the mass of the universe is in dark matter, and they sort of hum and haw and cough and spit a little bit over that one, and they can't properly explain it. And it's a, you know, there's some embarrassing, really seriously embarrassing situations coming up for physicists and chemists and some of the others of the old school ways of thinking at this point in time.
Trapped in the matter state, I call that.
Yes, indeed.
And there's a question in the chat there about has anyone used Kirlian photography to detect the plasmatic fields? And that, I've spoken about that before, and yet I've got an image there on my computer somewhere that shows the difference. I've shared it with you guys before now, and yep, you go into the royal purple. We discussed it before. I don't know if you remember. You get into the royal purple zone if you when you start working with the plasma fields, and you get a very beautiful balanced auric field at that point in time, and that ties into what we're talking about here. It's outside the realm of the matter state, and I call it light. I don't know what you guys call it, but you know, you're getting into the world of light there, and the advanced human is a light being, you know. So we're coming out of the matter state and we're moving into those what I call light.
Plasma state sometimes is talked about, but not in the sense of the ordinary sciencey
nope.
definition of plasma. Even though the plasma scientists of today will tell you that 99.98% of the universe is composed of plasma, but they'll still tell you that the table in front of them and you are all composed of matter. And that's where the problem comes in, because it's essentially all plasma, including what we think is matter. If you look at it closely, it's all rotating magnetic fields and plasmatic field interactions and all of that, if we choose to look at it that way.
I've pulled up the image if you want me to do a screen share there for Freddie. Let me just can you give me permission to screen share?
I think you can go ahead, but I'll stop the share and you can go ahead there.
Continue screen share. You got that?
Just a second, I have to find everything back here again. Second. Okay, it's a video. Is that what we're playing? Or?
No, it's just an image. It's the Kirlian photography, to answer Freddie's question. It's
I'm not seeing an image yet here.
Let me try and reshare.
I believe
it says I'm sharing.
I believe it's an aura photography and not a real Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography is done under discharge of high voltage. And these aura photos are done by a patented system where a camera is connected to a device which has two plates on which the subject has to put its hands, and it's measuring some electric properties of the body, and this is how it creates the colors. So I know these are very popular on different booths on fairs, but we don't know how accurate they are.
Yeah, right. Let me see if I can.
Actually, you can buy such an apparatus for a couple of $1,000.
And so the difference that we're looking at there, Sandor, between the one image and the other, what are we actually looking at there? Sorry, I've stopped sharing there, so we can, if I can bring it back up if you like.
Sure, that'd be best.
Okay, screen share. So the images that we're looking at there, if that is not Kirlian photography, what has caused the difference in the color that we are seeing in the image?
It's the difference in the electric properties of the body, which are measured. So the subject has to put his palms on two metal plates, which are left and right from him during the photo.
So it's the
we don't know what kind of measuring is done. We don't know
the electrical discharge from the body.
Yeah, some properties of the bodies are changed. The pattern description is public, so you can find it, you can read it, but it doesn't give explanation of how that electronics will function.
So we're in uncharted territory there, but we can see the difference, right? What's interesting is there is a difference, regardless of where and the what. We're looking at a distinct difference in color there, right?
Absolutely. So something changed.
Yeah, something changed. Okay, I'll stop the screen share there. Thanks, Rick.
Great, thanks, Tom. Thank you.
The actual Kirlian photo have been done, for instance, putting live matter like a leaf, for instance, between two plates. Sometimes the plates are in an angle, sometimes they are parallel, and they are making a high voltage discharge in a dark room there. And it's produced, and under it, it is a photo film. And the high voltage discharge makes some certain patterns of those sparks which illuminate the photo film, and it creates such a image of the electric discharges. And there are differences between live leaf and dead leaf. Also, there are some versions where you can put your palm or your finger into the apparatus and can make such a photo. It is disputed very much, so what it means, but there are differences, of course, between different stages.
Would be nice to see if we can find any images where plasma's been used in that case. It would be interesting.
Yeah, sure. I studied those in the 70s. I studied a lot.
Before you had pots of GANs around the house, right?
Yes. We had pots of gems and other things in the house.
All right, very good.
Something new.
Thank you, Shandor, for that.
You are welcome. These are very interesting things, but we have to find some measuring method which is undisputable. So about these photos, there are so many controversies since decades. These are not new. And some people accept them, some don't accept them. So there is a difference. By the way, there are some companies, like one of the network marketing companies, I don't want to promote its name, who is selling all kinds of biological active supplements and other things. Otherwise, it started with cosmetics, who has a device for such measuring the biophotonic emission from the finger of somebody, and it tracks so-and-so data. Usually these are very nice, but not well documented. We have to go to find some new ways of methods for visualization or measurement of the plasmatic fields. So we have to find a phenomena where the interaction of the fields produces something which is measurable, observable, or visible in some way, through a conversion.
You know, Rick, I made these little finger coils once upon a time, and they were nano-coated. And I resin coated them to protect the nano layers and popped them on my fingers and toes. So I had 10 little coiled nano coated devices, and you can feel the energy as you put them on. You'll feel a pulsing starting to happen in each extremity. And what happened was the pulsing was kind of off rhythm. So you would feel your right hand pulsing, your left hand pulsing a little bit at a different timing. And if you wore them for long enough, the pulsing would synchronize. And then eventually, so your hands and feet would end up, you would feel this budum, budum, which I guess correlates to the heart beating, or I don't even know. And I set up one of these little tinfoil, spinning tinfoil devices where it's just a piece of kitchen foil put into a kind of a pyramidish type of a shape and put it on a little spike so that it was free to spin. And you can do this with your own energy of your own hands. You know, if you put your hands around the foil, it will start to spin. And that's obviously your own magnetical energy coming out of your hands that it's picking up. But when you put these little nano-coated devices on, it was so definite. It was amazing. I would put my hands and feet around the thing and it would start spinning at speed, pull them back, it would stop, put them back again, the thing would start spinning at speed. So it was like that was a nice visual on watching how the energy was transferred. It was becoming much more defined when you wore these little coils on your hands and feet. That was a nice visual. Again, the world of science wouldn't recognize that as anything, but I do.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting because it can be easily reproduced.
Yeah, for sure.
And it can be correlated with the subjective report of the person who is testing it. What does he feel in the same time when he gives different results? By the way, spinning a small piece of foil or a paper of the size of a cigarette paper on the tip of a pin or a needle, it's exactly like it is the so-called Egeli wheel, which is a patented device that has an extra feature. It has a light wheel on a pin in balance, but it has an extra feature. It has an electronic counter which counts the speed by an optical device. I think it was somebody from Germany or Austria who put one like that near a maglev, and it has shown a higher rotating speed of the Egeli wheel, which it said it's measuring bioenergy. Now, we didn't got a reply from Mr. Egeli, from the inventor, so what it measures his device, because it measures something very strong near a maglev. Meanwhile, he's used to give such interviews where he talks in very derogatory terms about all this plasma science. He doesn't accept it. Would he accept the measurements of his own measuring device? That's a good question.
Well, I made a little video of this experiment and put it online, and there were quite a lot of people that just wouldn't accept what I put up was real. They were, dude, you're blowing on it. I said, okay, set up the same thing and try and blow it and see what happens.
Cover it with a plastic, transparent, disposable plastic cup.
Yeah, I don't get
the blowing.
I just don't get pulled into those arguments. I say, well, yeah, if you feel I'm blowing it, then that's okay with you.
No problem.
No problem.
No matter what you show for demonstration, always there will be some people who will say, oh, it's a magic trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I've seen somebody who did such a trick with such a spinning wheel, and he's shown how he did the trick by hiding some small holes into the small table on which he made it spinning at an extremely high rate, actually by blowing it in a secret device, and later he disclosed how he did.
You'd have to be, I think you need to get out more if you need to fake things like that.
No, we teach people how to use this technology, how to use it. Whatever they'll feel and observe, it will be their own truth, their own knowledge. It will be nobody tries to enforce now to demonstrate something or to convince people. We are not convincing people. We try to enlighten them.
The people who ask me to prove it, they keep saying, prove it. That's not proof, prove it. And I say, well, please just go and make an experiment yourself. And then one good test will prove all your theories and you will know. Yeah. Hi, Carolina.
Yes, sorry I interrupt you.
No.
I hope I have taken the freedom for people to visit the island, to go and see with their own eyes. Proof is out of the blue, as we say. That's why we are bringing the knowledge for people to be taught. If they ask those and that many questions, we indicate them where they can make it themselves with all the support they can get. And then we can sit properly on the table, because what has manifested on Dominica is a beautiful example. How is that possible? Let them answer that and let them demonstrate it and try it themselves, as Sander says, as you says, and so many other knowledge seekers. We have no time to waste, no time to lose, to teach, to inform, to give, because the one platform we are all working on, and that's why I started this topic this morning or this afternoon, is world peace. Because it will bring so much peace in so many beings, not only humanity. Just give account, Tom, how many life presence is in that 1 hectare that you and your mom have created? How many small or big animals are even present without the plants?
Well, again, it's according to the way you look at the world, and I see trillions. You know, I see every organism as valid. So I wouldn't just count the birds and the flowers. We get right down to that. You know, the absolute tiniest of living entities are present there, and each one is having an effect on that area. And if you can help to balance the energy in the land, it will. You're helping every level of life, and each one is valid. Because things get bigger, it doesn't give them more validity. They're all there and they're all present.
So, as we have tried to repeat so many times, that's showing is, if anyone remember when I said, when you start applying the ganses and through your changing, you're changing your whole environment. Now you have the proof there in full display. It would be nice for you to go back in a few months' time and see how it has nourished more than it was before. Because the strength is still there, it will not disappear. And for sure, your mom is present with her presence, and you from a distance. And with all that, so many other knowledge seekers have put their attention to the island. So automatically, it is already receiving so much that it would be nice to go back in a few months' time and see what else and more has been added to that oasis state, as we call it.
Yeah, it's a living example, and I think it will remain a living example. Now, I think it's coming to the eye line of enough people that it will remain a living example. But I feel that it's not even worth using it as an example to guide people who need proof and skeptics and what have you. I think it's time we stop paying attention to these folks and we just lead by example and live it and stop responding to this. We need proof, because the more of us that just are living it, it stops becoming about proving anything, and we just become the living examples of it, like the garden is. And I believe those people that need proof, they've got their own. They're a living blockage to their own what they're looking for. It's a bit like, containing energy. they're like to give an example. It's like putting a lead box around something. You know, if you want to try and contain the energy within it, or like these people to me are like a living lead box, and as much proof as they need and as much they want you to show them until they get up and have a go for themselves. And we're so used to being spoon-fed as humans that everything is given to us and we accept it or we reject it, until these folks go and have a go and start to do it with an open heart. They'll be in their lead box and they'll be sitting there with their arms folded saying, prove it, prove it, prove it. And so for me personally, I don't know how you guys feel, but time to start moving away from those people. And guess what happens when you become the living example? As much as they say, oh, you are this, you're that, and they'll call you names and whatever, but they gravitate towards you all the time. And they've got their eyes on what you're doing all the time. They keep coming back to you and wanting to watch what you're doing. Why? Because it fascinates them. And I think there are a lot of people that live like that now that are working in the plasma community. They're just doing it. They're not bothered about showing and proving anything. It's just like me. I like to put things up in Facebook that I do that are nice little things that I observe and whatever, but it's not there to prove anything. It's just, I'm just sharing it to try and inspire the next guy. Oh, you know, oh, great, I'll have a go at that. And the more of us that start doing that with a positive energy rather than an energy that is about proving everything, the more we're going to inspire people. And I see the wave of what's happening in the plasma community, and it's lovely because that's what I see is naturally happening. The good people with good energy are picking it up and running with it, and all of them start showing what they're doing and the results they're getting. And there's a reaction, you know, there's a knock-on effect that happens. That's great. That just leaves all those skeptics behind. All they can do is just stand there scratching their heads and getting vexed about the fact that it isn't happening for them. And enough of us start leading by example like that, there's going to be it already is, right? There's like an unstoppable wave that's happened that's going to change the direction that we're heading and make it a much nicer world to live in, where we do all start appreciating that everything that has life is relevant, you know?
That's the beauty, as Mr. Keshe always says, we inspire. And living and doing it, that's the way it should be, exactly as you explained. But a lot of people need sometimes to be taken by the hand, and it makes it a little bit easier to come and step over that bridge of whatever we call it. We are not time wasters. That's why I confirmed so many times to the knowledge seekers, have you realized what you have achieved? And it's just sitting down. How have you achieved it? Because you got up and you did it exactly as you explained. You do it, you achieve it, you see it moving, you see it sharing, and then you're so amazed, and it's such a pleasure, such a beauty that you realize it has to go on to other people. It has to be shared. And this is the beauty why we call all of you knowledge seekers. They are the doers, and they are the ones which are moving forward. It is no problem that people stay on the sideline. It's just we keep on going. And the more we share and the more we teach, the more knowledge will be revealed. And as we are maturing in our own way, and this is the beauty of this platform, just go back to the beginning and see how much knowledge has been shared, how much beauty has been given. And all of us are contributing to it. And it's through the questions and the answers, and then this triggers somebody else, because I've just read the chat. People are moving. They're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they're going to come back and give the feedback, but they share it with everyone. There's nowhere in any of the teachings or any of the meetings or any of the public platforms which anything is being held. Everything is on the table, open to share and to enjoy. And as what you need or I need, or you enjoy the pictures and the videos, and then the other person works with the energy, and then Sander works with more complicated things, and then you hear Rick sharing, and then you hear others sharing. It all comes together because I take and receive share from you, you receive a share from the other one, and that's how it gets completed. That's how we're getting, as we say, started off. And I already passed so many questions to Mr. Keshe to be able to come, maybe to share them today or on Thursday, because people come with questions and they're amazingly interesting to see what can we learn from that? How can we explore there? What can we do more? So I appreciate and I thank all of you for all your sharing, because as much as we learn from one another, we also give to one another. And the whole topic from today for the new year is to create as much peace for everything, for the whole environment. As you said, Tom, there is so much more present in that 1 hectare. We haven't even mentioned the bacteria and the viruses and whatever is flourishing within that field around your mom's house.
Yeah, and I think it's a point to mention is it's now, this information is much more accessible to the average guy on the street. And I remember tuning into the first workshop that was ever put up there, and I think we were maybe in Rick's laboratory or, and I was doing my best to keep up with it because I had no knowledge of anything to do with anything like plasma technology, nuclear physics, I can't even say it. And, I stuck with it, and through the years, I inch by inch managed to get what you guys were talking about. And it's different now. The teachings are totally different now than they were back then. Back then was highly technical and very, very difficult to follow if you're a layman. And these days, it's housewives and young kids and everybody and their dog are having a go at it. And now the information it's been deciphered and it's been put into understandable terminology for the rest of us, so we can all catch up with what's available. And I realized it was a process, right? It was it was necessary to start at the beginning and move through it slowly. But now there are thousands of people out there that are prepared to hold your hand. If you're someone that wants to have a go at it for the first time and hasn't got their head around the absolute basics of what it is yet, there's so many people out there now that will hold your hand and tell you, well, all right, this is what I did, let's have a go, boom. And then, that wasn't there a few years ago, but now there's a whole network of people who are there to ease people through it who want to have a go at it. And it means now that you don't have to be a scientist to do this stuff, which I think is just very cool. And I'm very grateful for you all for sharing that. So thanks.
You're welcome. I see that Mr. Keshe is present. Would you like to share something with us, Mr. Keshe, before we close down?
Yes. Happy New Year. And I hope you have a fantastic time in these sessions. And we carry on teaching on Thursdays. I've listened to most of these things, and I hope we can use most of this knowledge in a short time. There are big changes coming through, so we have to be ready for the changes, and we will be very soon introducing systems for measurement, and it'll be physical, tangible systems that it can be done. There is no mistake in the measurement and in
Hello?
He must have dropped out. He has a bad connection at this moment, so he will reappear again in a minute.
Okay.
Thank Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
We did not hear the last part because you dropped out, Mr. Keshe.
Oh, it keeps on dropping off. We have a bad reception.
I know, that's what I said to Rick.
Yeah, so thank you very much for being there. And as I said, I don't know if you heard, we are developing new technology for measuring our own technology. This is what the governments are asking us. And so we are responding, but in a very soft way, establishing parameters as it was discussed. And in so many ways, there are so many results coming internationally that it has changed the direction of the foundation. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will hear a lot. There is a lot of big changes on its way. And thank you very much for everyone, for everything you're doing. And I wish you a very successful year.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. And I think, Rick, it's time for closure. We are 3 hours into the session.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you all, knowledge seekers. I know for the ones which have started the day, they still have loads of work to do. But thank you for your presence.
Okay, and I guess that wraps it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for attending the 23rd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace for Tuesday, January 16th, 2018. And I'm not sure, do we have some music to go out with today? Should we play the something, Vince? What do you think?
Rick, we always go out with music.
Yeah, let's see, where I have to find it here. We have the slideshow. Just a second, I'll find it here.